And they're just like holidays. Every day's a holiday. This weekend we've got PDX Land, which is a holiday, right? And then last weekend we had Halloween, which is a holiday for some. So yeah, I had to like at 6 o'clock last weekend, Wendell. I was like, oh shit, there's kids coming over. I didn't even think about it. I looked outside and I realized, oh my god, I live in a neighborhood with about 1 million brats. So I was like, what am I gonna do? I could hide in the basement, but people are probably still gonna ring the doorbell because that's just the way people are here. They're gonna come bother me no matter what. So I ran and got a bunch of junk food. You know, I was gonna give them beets and onions, but I figured they'd, you know, egg my house. And
beets are great.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of an area I live in, but it was weird. Like the kids would come and I would give them candy, and then they would look at me and I would give them a little bit more candy. And this one dude, I don't know, he looked like about a 12, 13, 14-year-old kid or whatever. I gave him like 8 or 9 pieces of candy. I just kept giving him candy. And then he looks in his bag and looks up at me and he goes, is that all, dude? Can I get some more? and I was just like, shit's bad for you. And I closed the door. But yeah, that was my Halloween. Did you do anything special or have any little brats at the house or anything?
No, it was pretty quiet. There wasn't really anything crazy, thankfully. No. It's I do a little bit miss the college days of the Halloween parties, because in college the Halloween parties were definitely the best parties all year by a significant margin.
Because you don't know who anybody is. You're like, oh, I think that's Batman, but I don't know. Yeah. So, guys, thanks a lot for grabbing the new Zweihander album. It was number 1 on Bandcamp. You guys did it. It was number 1 on Bandcamp for the entire Halloween, the next day, and almost until the end of the day on Sunday. So we pretty much owned the weekend on Bandcamp. That's freaking awesome, guys. So thanks very much. Again, that money is mostly going to fund the development of the independent game that we're making. And we've got a local Unreal Engine developer who's doing a hell of a job. He's moving quickly. We've got the guy who did the artwork for Zweihander doing the concept art for this. It's not going to look like this. It's going to be Unreal Engine, so it'll be a little bit more realistic looking. But yeah, we're getting down to work, and I think we're going to get the audience involved in the development process in some ways. We've been discussing how to do this. So I'll be posting on the forum. If you're interested in contributing or helping out, what we'll do is we'll post a list of assets that we need, like small things. And if you guys have any modeling experience or whatever, you can jump in there and submit your stuff. So, I mean, we're going to be pretty strict because we can't just... someone's out there and they're like, they make a chair that looks more like a cat than a chair. We'll be like, well, I guess that's kind of Art Deco, but I don't think it'll fit in the game, dude. Sorry. So you have to be able to take criticism, and you have to understand that not everything you submit will make it into the final game. But if you would like to help and have some extra time and want to maybe try a few things, hone your skills, and also, help us out at the same time, that's one way. If you guys have any other ideas of ways that you can help out, I don't want to give away the plot. It's going to be a secret, so I don't really need any extra writers or anything. We've got a very tight plot. But, if you have music to submit, sure, we're going to use some of the community's music, as well as, the music I make. It's not going to be enough for the whole game, so just whatever. Hop in the forum post, and let's talk about it. And again, thanks. You guys are awesome. All right, let's get down to the news. You ready for this, Wendell? First up.
I'm always ready for the news. I'm a news junkie. What are you talking about?
Let's go ahead and talk about ProtonMail first, and we'll jump straight to CERN, Switzerland. So ProtonMail, a very sophisticated DDoS attack, the biggest DDoS attack that they've ever seen in Switzerland. And ProtonMail, they're like an encrypted mail service. One of the things that's interesting about this...
Started by some guys at CERN.
Yep, started by some guys over at CERN. So it's interesting because there was a ransom, right? They paid the ransom, like 15 Bitcoin ransom, and they are still being attacked. So at least the good thing... What's that? Go ahead.
But not all of it. Some of it, but not all of it. So it's like, wait, who's really DDoSing? We don't understand.
It's point... I mean, everything right now is hearsay, but what they're saying is the only people who could do a DDoS attack like this are possibly like big governments, because it's on that scale. Like, they don't think a group of hackers who are trying to get 6,000 US dollars or the equivalent thereof are going to be able to mount an attack this big, because the attack brought down an ISP, a data center, and of course ProtonMail. Now,
yeah, the situation is really interesting because ProtonMail was being pressured by their ISP to just pay the ransom because of the collateral damage. The article said that at peak the DDoS was 200 gigabit, and it's like, wow, that's a lot, 200 gigabit. And then you think about it, and it's like, well, actually, 200 people on Google Fiber could do this, and it's like, yeah, the internet is pretty much that fragile. There's such a disparity between the haves and the have-nots of bandwidth that our internet infrastructure can be taken down by 200 people that have the bandwidth of Google Fiber. Pretty much. And that should really horrify you. I mean, pretty much DDoS.
Or 20 people that
unless
live
you're
in
a Fortune 500, DDoS is just, it's going to be really bad. It's going to be really bad news. And an angry 12-year-old can ruin your day. So
and the disparity
I feel bad for the ProtonMails.
Look at places like Vermont and like the Twin Cities in Minnesota. You can now get residential 10 gig internet there. One person could do a ton of damage. But I mean, if 20 people did this attack, it's like 20 people is what it would take to be the biggest attack ever on Switzerland. You imagine what one or two people could do to someone whose IP address is nowhere near as I mean who can't handle 10 gigabit? That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not. The internet is so fragile because we have so little bandwidth. It doesn't. It's crazy.
We're going to talk more about. Yeah, we'll talk more about that here in a minute when we get to the Comcast stuff. There's some hilarious stuff. Oh, I'm making people angry right now. Someone pointed out that I tend to scroll around a lot on the articles. I am pretty wild when I'm on the internet. That's how I read the internet. Is I open up a page and I scroll in all directions as fast as I can, absorbing as much of it as I can, and then figure out where I want to start on this page. So yeah, I'll try not to do that.
I would use the word spastic.
Yeah, spastic is a good word for it. Someone was like, basically, dude, if you don't stop being so spastic, I'm just going to have to wait for the podcast. So, sorry, man. sorry, that one guy who complained, I'm sorry. Because I know other people are probably getting a headache, too, by me scrolling around and clicking and enlarging images, and then I just can't help it. Anyway, so it'll be interesting to see what goes on with these guys in the coming weeks. And it's also going to be interesting to see if they can figure out who did this. On a bright note, they have said that at least none of the encryption has failed and none of it's been compromised. So that's kind of cool for all the people who are using their mail service. Nothing's been compromised just yet. All right, let's talk about some cars, some electric cars. Bear with me, I'm going to scroll down, but I'll try to do it slowly. There we go. So there's a company here called Faraday Future. Faraday Future. That sounds weird. Like that's a very something about that name feels a bit ominous to me. But anyway, they're sinking $1 billion into a plant to make electric cars, and they've been poaching talent from places like Tesla and BMW, and we don't know a lot about them other than the fact that they're trying to figure out if they want to put their plant in Georgia or maybe Arizona or no, it was California, Nevada, Louisiana, or Georgia. So they're just trying to figure out who's going to be the friendliest. I don't know. You got any theories on this, Wendell?
I'm super cynical.
There's not enough information here on these guys.
The type of poaching that they're doing and the sudden readiness of the amount of money that they have, I don't know that this is true. I'm not basing this on anything. I would guess that the oil industry, through maybe a myriad of shell companies, is probably behind this. By poaching talent from these up-and-coming people that are actually doing good things with electric vehicles, they have the potential to slow down everything else. If they could just keep all these smart people busy that they've poached, but not actually doing anything useful for the electric car industry, then that would probably be a good use of Big Oil's time. I don't know if they're that devious and cynical, but then I think about all the things that happened with leaded gasoline and during the whole leaded gasoline era, and all the subterfuge that went into that. And I think, yeah, this is not really even as crazy as the leaded gasoline thing. So this could totally be the oil industry doing this to keep talent busy. The talent may not even be aware that they're working for the oil industry and not doing anything, or the oil industry could send them in all sorts of nonsensical directions just to undermine the rest of the electric car industry. I mean, what sense does it make that, a company from nowhere, no R&D, brand new technology would just show up and do something useful? I could be wrong. I hope that I'm wrong. But given that they don't, they just have smart people working for them, and, there's somebody at the top that's maybe doing something, but not really, you don't know. There's not enough info here. And so I tend to err on the side of the super crazy, cynical tinfoil hat. It served me well.
Okay, let's look at it could be that. It could be the real thing. It could be another group of people who got together and said, "Hey, let's help the world. We got to make some good cars." If they were truly in that vein, I don't think they'd be poaching talent from other places. And it seems like they have a bit of a competitive vibe about them. Okay, so there's that. Now there's another thing here that we could consider, because in their materials and the things that they've said so far, they are keen on delivering a different model. So they want to have a different ownership model. I'm not sure what that means, but they want like a different ownership model. So is that different than leasing or buying? Maybe there's some other way that they can give us a car. Well, they mentioned that they want to have, autonomous driving, and they also want to have in-vehicle content. So what if they give you a little advertisement box, and you drive around all day in this advertisement box, and you don't have to pay to have the car unless you use it. You have usage limits on your car. You have to, of course, pay for the electricity you use when you're plugging it in or whatever. But while you're in the car, you have to sit through advertisements. I don't think they would do that, but it's the same thing as whenever you go to the gas station nowadays. You pick up the gas pumper in Europe, your petrol thing, you pick it up, and as soon as you pick it up, it's like, warm, delicious coffee, just 16 meters away, right inside that door. Get a hot dog, 2 for $78. Or however much they are these days. That's the Swiss price for hot dogs. $78 for 2. Yeah. I don't know if they're going to do that, but I guarantee you advertisers are going to start looking at this. As soon as we have autonomous driving, it's just going to be like sitting in the back of a taxi cab. As soon as you sit down, that stupid, annoying voice comes on and says, "Guess what? We're going to harass you until you get out of the car, and we're going to make you pay for it." So
my life experiences have given me this amazing organelle inside my brain that automatically translates from all of that into reality. And so whatever you said, what I heard was, and what the future holds is we're going to have a shunt installed directly into your brainstem to deliver advertising directly to your brain wirelessly, because that is the future. And that's what I heard.
With all the advertising, I think that if they really wanted to do it, if they really want to just go all out and be evil, they should install a shunt. But what it should do is not influence us. It should just directly control us. It should be like, all right, dude, you can't help it right now, but you're going to go have a Coke. But I don't want a Coke. I want to go to the gym. No, you're not going to go to the gym. You're going to have a Coke and a Snickers, because that's satisfying, and your brain's going to be like, you're going to be like this. It'll be like Captain Kirk when something has control, and he's like, must resist, coffee, must, no.
Well,
no.
That's basically what happened with Edward Bernays when he was unleashed on society. So it's just that we've acclimated a little bit to that. It's not as bad as it used to be. But in the era of Bernays, it was basically, hey, you're a doctor. You're a smart guy, right? Yeah. It's like, would you say having some kind of meat, like, say, bacon for breakfast would be a good thing? Yeah, I could probably write a letter to do that. Well, let's do it! And thus we have bacon, because otherwise pork bellies really didn't sell before. What you described has already happened. And, in fact, advertising agencies are hiring neurologists to figure out modern brain hacks in order to do things. Man. But that's probably a topic for another show.
Yeah, we've got some stuff coming up. I was talking to Jennifer earlier in the week, and she coined the term, marketing vomit demon speech. Because, we've hired her to do marketing, and she was talking to some other marketing people. And, she just we got on Google Hangouts, and she was just like, I just can't handle their marketing vomit demon speech. She's like, I can do that too. I went to school. I know all the words. I know the catchphrases. I know all the different things that they say. She's like, I just can't do it. And I was like, that's why we hired you. Because that's what we need. So, yeah. We got some pretty funny marketing videos. What came out of that was she was like, we need to make a video called Native Advertising and You. So while she's there, and Kane is actually there right now, and where he's traveling across the country, he stopped there to say hi. So they're going to shoot a few videos, and they're going to shoot a little bit of that video, and then we'll finish it up when we get here, and we'll have it'll be pretty ridiculous and over the top, just about the whole native advertising thing, where people, they call us and they're like, hey, we want you to make a video about this thing here, and we're going to give you a ton of money, and you're going to talk about how awesome it is, and you have to say all these things, and you have to smile, and you have to link here, and you just have to pretend it's your own opinion. That's what native advertising really is, and it's everywhere. You guys see it everywhere. We don't do it. It's not happening. If someone says, hey, look at this and take money for it, I'll be like, you guys can buy an advertisement and it'll cost you money.
And that's why we're hoping the Patreon goes well.
Oh, let's bring it up right now.
We're not. It's
like, doing well. Yeah, it's doing great.
We try to also offer alternatives for things like, hey, let's do a project video where we use the project in some amazing way. And so it's almost like we're Bob Vila, and there are lumber companies out there. And Bob Vila is like, I've got a really great idea for a gazebo. Your lumber would be perfect. Let's build a gazebo with your lumber, and it's going to be amazing. And the lumber company's like, no, we really need you to take our 2x4 and just shove it up your nose and say how amazing it is. And it's like, but everybody loves a gazebo. I mean, who doesn't love a gazebo? And
or at least a nook. With Bob Vila, the only two things he would ever build was a gazebo. And let's put a little nook in here. What the hell's a nook? No one has a nook. Have you ever gone into a house and someone be like, here's my nook, this is my foyer, here's my parlor, and here's my nook. Those are not things that are in houses anymore. Would you like to go out on the veranda? No, let's go into the solarium for a minute. Does anyone have any of those things in your house? All these strange rooms that we don't talk about anymore?
I could definitely go for a house with a nook. I could go into a nook and ponder exactly how cynical I am. It can be the cynical nook. It'll be adjacent to the solarium.
You know what we need to bring back? Well, I want an arboretum. You know, that's me. I'll be up there in the arboretum eating burritos in the arboretum. That's where I'm going to be. We need to bring back the den, or the study. The studies, the den.
The observatory.
The observatory and the study need to come back. Right now, we've got these man caves. No
man cave. Come on.
No. We need a study filled with books and learned things, and maybe a few, cigars and single malt whiskey. And you know what? Anybody can come in. It's not just for men. Women can read too, I think. Can't they? Have they allowed them in school yet? I don't even know.
The oldest term for man cave that I'm aware of, or the oldest literary reference I can think of for man cave, is sanctum sanctorum. It's like, oh, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Let's do that. And then it's like, no, man cave.
Yeah.
No, sanctum sanctorum sounds amazing.
But with this, it needs to be gendered. Only men can go into caves. I don't know why this is.
Yeah, I guess.
I've also learned over the years that all wolves are male. Have you ever seen a wolf on TV? Everyone always like, oh, look at him. Never mind. That's another thing. Let's talk about ex-fugitive antivirus creator. John McAfee running for president. I love this NBC news article. They started off with ex-fugitive. He killed your family and was hiding out in someone's basement in Mexico for 2 weeks. That's what that sounds like.
Wait a minute. Wait, isn't George Bush Jr. technically an ex-fugitive? What with the whole cocaine thing? I mean, technically?
Ex-fugitive? George Bush George W. He's a wanted man in some places in the country. Brattleboro, Vermont, I believe, was the first place to put out an arrest warrant for him and Cheney. So, yeah, he's not
he's actually a fugitive.
He's actually a current fugitive. The town of Brattleboro, Vermont. If he steps foot in that town, he will be arrested and tried for crimes against humanity. Or Dick Cheney.
I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about the 70s cocaine thing, because it was like, oh yeah. So I mean, technically isn't Cheney too? I mean, there was something Cheney did.
Something?
I don't remember.
Just one something? That's it. There was something. I don't know. Cheney did something bad. I forgot what it was, but there was something a bit off about him. I don't know. It's pretty good. He's good otherwise. But anyway, back to McAfee. He's running for president, and he's been going on and on his Twitter. If you guys follow him, I follow him because he's freaking. Do I follow him? I follow him. There we go. I follow him because flamboyant people kind of are fun to watch because they say really ridiculous things, and sometimes they don't always think through them. They just out with it, and you're like, whoa, dude, you said that on a public platform. And it's just, I usually agree with a lot of things he says. He's very anti-surveillance state and all that sort of thing. Kim.com's another flamboyant one that's fun to follow, people, I do not agree with everything he says, but I enjoy following him. So, and a lot of people were like, well, you follow that guy? You don't have to like flamboyance. It's okay. All right, so this article is from a while back, but there was a new article on Forbes today that has a more responsible title. Thank you, Forbes. John McAfee would rather laugh with the sinners, but he's a cybersecurity saint. So, yeah, I guess they're still giving him that, slightly rebel, chaotic. He's he's chaotic good. If he was a D&D character, I think John McAfee would be chaotic good. And the establishment, they can't handle chaotic anything. They want lawful evil. Right? Yeah. That's what they want. So anyway.
You're just not a politician until you've shot off somebody's face.
But you did it with justification, from the legal justification. You had someone sign to approve this guy's going to die. But anyway, it's okay that way. Anyway, so yeah, him running for president, I don't know. What do you think, Wendell? What do you think he should... What can we do with this guy? Maybe we could use him. He wants to help. He's 70 years old.
He's a smart guy. He is 70, so that's not really a big deal. But
he's a healthy 70.
Presidential, no. But I tell you what, I would like to see. I would like to see him as like the CTO of the United States, or in some sort of technical position. Not because I think that he would do. I don't think he would do that job dishonestly. And I actually think I would really enjoy watching the fireworks of having him in that type of a position, just like a bull in a china shop. I can imagine him, getting the healthcare.gov IT report and just like completely losing it, like flipping a table, throwing chairs. It would be amazing. It would be more entertaining than having Ballmer in that position.
Oh yeah, I would love a live stream from his office, because he's a public official. I'm not for surveillance, but hey, when he's in his office, put a camera in there and let it just go, and we'll see what happens when people come in with bad ideas and stuff. I'll go ahead and skip to this article right now because it can kind of tie in. This is the one about the U.S. military communication systems thing. So the Pentagon contractor. So here's the way things work right now is there's a bunch of money to go towards all the security stuff, and a lot of people who work internally with the government, they have no idea how anything works. I may or may not know people who have personally been to the Pentagon and helped them install the security systems because they don't internally know how to do it. And then they have to stay there and train them. So all these, civilians essentially are granted top secret access, and they're given contracts which are huge. And a lot of times the government won't even give something out because they have such a large chunk of money, and they won't even give it out. It's not like they're looking for a deal here. They got to spend it. So they're going to give it to their cronies. So a lot of times someone will start a contracting company, and they won't know how to do what the government needs either, but they'll know how to, they'll go ahead and they'll take the money, and then they'll hire a team in Russia to do the work. So that's what's happened here. A bunch of top secret stuff was being worked on by a subcontractor of a contractor by Russians. And a whole bunch of machines ended up getting viruses from the work that the Russians did. I wonder what could be possibly wrong here. A bunch of Russians working on software for the Pentagon. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Russians or anything wrong with subcontractors, but this is stuff that should have been done really, really carefully and internally, because this is national security stuff here. It's not like they're building, an e-tail website, or it's not like they're building, a website for their campaign or something. That's not that sensitive, but that's like borderline for me. I don't know. That's I think the biggest problem here we need to look at is the system in which the contractors are being hired, and just how much money they're giving to these external firms, and then the fact that those firms are always subcontracting and subcontracting and subcontracting. It's ridiculous.
It really is. Like, the level of bureaucracy, it's actually very difficult for small businesses to really do things in a kind of agile way within this kind of framework, because a lot of the time government work is looked at as sort of like this I don't really know how to describe it. It's almost, a lot of the vendors get entrenched, and then it's basically impossible to fire them, and it's impossible to get good work. And so once you've got the contract, they spend most of their time looking for the next contract instead of executing on the one, because the contracts are very transient. And if you don't have another contract lined up for when that contract is over, you're screwed. And if you don't immediately start working on another contract when you've got a contract, it takes so long and there's so much bureaucracy that you will literally not have a contract the next time that you're up for a contract. And so the system sort of rewards the organizations that just sort of are a contract mill. And something was skimped on that it probably shouldn't have been skimped on. But at the same time, there's not really internal staff to do a lot of this, and there's not really internal staff that can really keep an eye on what's going on here. I mean, if the contractor is paid to do custom programming work, then technically that software should be available through like a Freedom of Information Act request. And if that's the case, then the code could be reviewed by internal staff. And so I don't know that this is entirely on the contractor. There are probably some systemic problems here, and there are probably some architectural problems here. But the Department of Defense has had major problems, not just with Russian viruses, also, the Chinese basically taken over their email system, I think, last year. And I don't know that was ever really fixed properly. So it's really horrifying.
Speaking of other things that are horrifying, let's talk about Windows 10 for just a minute. Now, Windows 10, some guys at the inside of Microsoft here to say exactly who it is. Where's the guy? The corporate vice president, Joel Belfiore. So he is saying that even if you turn off pretty much all the monitoring stuff, you can go in and make sure that nothing is on and opt out of everything. Microsoft is still going to watch what you're going to do. And they said he's saying that the most basic level is for quality control. That's how they're kind of spinning this. They're going to watch and see what kind of crashes and errors occur. But, even with all your stuff turned off, they're still going to be able to, when you sign the EULA or whatever, when you put a checkbox on that thing, they can install software whenever they want to. They can make updates. It's just, I don't know. They're trying to ensure and make sure that the customers are taken care of. And then they won't allow you to, even the power users. That's the problem I'm having right here with Microsoft, is they won't allow the power users to be like, listen, I got this. Thanks a lot. I paid for your software. It's on my machine. The only way that the power user can truly maintain their own system and truly make sure that it's not phoning home is to disconnect it from the internet. Use it on and that's not really a feasible thing for most people. I don't know, maybe we could do that with our editing machines, but yeah. So I did make that video showing you guys how to lock down Windows, and that'll help quite a bit, but there may still be issues
in the last year that if Linux continues with this momentum or even an accelerated momentum in 2 or 3 years, this is not even going to be a thing.
I really hope so, but I'm still stuck doing some of my creative work on Windows. Unfortunately, I'm a bit too reliant upon the Adobe products, and maybe I could hire one more person, ease my workload up a little bit, and then really sit down and learn Blender, because I think Blender could probably do the trick. But it's a huge learning curve, and I want to make sure you guys have constant content coming out. And then the other thing I could probably do.
True. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and then for my music and that sort of thing, I use premium VSTs. Those are the sound files, and it's really difficult. I could sit around and I could program my own, synthesized audio files, but it would take me hundreds of hours. I'm not very good at it. It's much easier to buy the $100 for a really nice sounding, suite of sounds, VSTs, whatever. A lot of those don't work that well on Linux. I've got FL Studio working on Linux, and that's a good bonus. But I might be able to just run Linux and then boot up into Windows whenever I need to do a few things. And then as time progresses, hopefully I'll need Windows less and less. Yeah, maybe that'll be the solution to doing the hardware pass through and keeping Windows in a little environment. That might be a good idea for just 2 things. But video gaming on Linux is coming along. Hopefully we'll get more support from future titles, and that'll be great. Vulkan, the new NVIDIA drivers have Vulkan. I don't know. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I think it's probably true that once we make it to the upper echelons of Patreon, that we will probably fund existing open source projects to do things that we think need to be done. Just user experience things. A lot of it is really crap work that even like a labor of love you don't want to do, but would honestly make it a better and more accessible product, or would make it a better and more accessible project, whether it's with the original authors or whether we fork some projects and, sort of do that on our own. And it obviously we're not going to be able to, it's like, oh, look at this. We've gotten the Adobe suite running on Linux by paying somebody to figure out all the problems with Wine, and then they've wrapped the 3D layer from DirectX to
Right.
Windows or whatever, or to obviously that's not going to happen.
The OpenCL or whatever. CUDA and
like
OpenCL
music
wrap that.
player and some of the work and productivity tools and other things that we need on Linux, we will probably just directly fund, because we can do interesting videos on that. That'll be interesting stuff that you guys would like to see. And I think it's going to be a really interesting future.
That's sort of my idea as well. I mean, I'm going to let you head those things because it'll be your area of expertise. We're going to try to stay as slender as possible as far as our staff goes, and I'll work harder. And the one thing we still are going to hire the video guy editor, and Kane is on his way here now, so that'll help a lot. So we are going to expand a little bit, but setting a bit of that aside to fund better quality content, and then we can if we can do both at the same time, whereas we're funding development on something that's really going to help make the world a better place, and then at the same time make videos about it to show you what's going on, how it's working, give you guys a bit of an education and show you some behind the scenes. Everybody wins, man. So thanks again to our Patreons. Let's keep it going, man. And so I can eat those steak dinners and buy that new Cadillac. I mean, so we can fund these.
Buy that new
awesome
Beamer, not a Cadillac. You're not a Cadillac man. What the hell is wrong?
But with all the preachers, they always want Cadillacs. Have you noticed that? What's up with that? It's like it's always a Cadillac or a Lincoln.
We're on a mission to get
Cadillac.
out the demons of ignorance and stupidity. Oh my God. Gotta reach down and feel the intelligence rising.
All right, let's check out some stuff that's going on our store. Got some very limited editions Zweihander t-shirts drawn by the Whiskey Ranger again from our forum. Has anybody seen Whiskey Ranger? Dude, are you watching? Where are you, man? We haven't seen him in about a month on the website, and we had some really cool t-shirts that were in the works. And if anybody knows where he is, just say hi. Dude, if you're watching, please say hi. Anyway, this was a strange little... People are going to be like, oh, what happened to Logan in the middle of the pitch for the store? We have a ton of mouse pads. And, guys, the desk mats are here. The full-size desk mats are here. So, I got those. Some new gift sets, because it's, the end of the year. We've got our, beer gift sets. So, check those out. And the shirt of the month. There it is. Yes. This one. As you can see, it's brighter this time. You can really tell that that's Tesla. And he's tessellated, yes. Is that where the term comes from? No, it's not. Turtle fur beanies are back in stock. And the last thing I want to mention is click on the sale items here. We have some fun stuff going on here. We're putting, just extra inventory and stuff in there. We have a bunch of hoodies that are on sale. And we've got this really interesting thing called the grab bag. It's the same price as one regular t-shirt, but you're going to get 2 random t-shirts. Usually, well, they said guarantee you're going to get one shirt of the month that's from a past month. Just we have some extras left over. Guaranteed you'll get one of those, and you'll get something else. So, who knows? Could be that. Could be the Einstein shirt. Could be the Taipei shirt. Could be Yes We Can. Could be the Pixel Burning Earth. Could be a tri-blend. You don't know what you're going to get, but it's the price of one shirt. So, that's a. How are we going to stay in business doing this? Hold on a minute. Never mind. No.
We've only got. There's not really a lot of those.
yeah. There's not a lot of those. Just
clearing inventory.
All right. Back to the tech. So this video of 2 men in Dubai flying beside a jet. We got the Rocketeer for real. So I figured they were going to burn their legs off, but they seem like they're doing okay. So I'm not even Yves Rosie and Vince Refit. How do you say Refet? I don't know where they're from. Anyway, they're flying along that giant Emirates Air 380, A380, whatever it is. Right there, they're flying above the city. So, I don't know. I want these. Like this is what I want for people ask me what I want for the holidays. People emailing me asking me what I don't celebrate Christmas, but people are asking me what I want. I want one of these. Can you guys give me one of these? Anybody? Send me one over. I don't know. Would you use one of these?
Probably not.
No.
So how does the landing work? Is the landing like, oh, I'm out of fuel, I'm gonna pull the ripcord, and then the wings fly off and they just parachute? Because that's neat.
I think you just slam into the ground, and it's like a good way to go. Well, I hope you had fun.
It's a little Hunter S. Thompson of you there. It's like, oh yeah, I'm losing control of my faculties. How are you going? It's like jet wingsuit. Oh yeah, all right, sounds good.
Yeah. I don't know if you were losing control of your family. You'd probably be nauseated up there, but it's pretty crazy. I guess the reason is because they could. A lot of math and science went into this. So, yeah, I would imagine there would... I don't even know how they would land. They didn't show that on here. And this article is really short on content. All right, moving along here. So those teen hackers, did we talk about that last week? Or did we not? I forget. So there's a group of teen hackers, and they were able to dox. It's the CIA chief. They got into his AOL account and then found all kinds of stuff. And they're a bunch of kids. They've been doing television interviews, like for CNN and whatnot, disguising their voice. And they're just doing it because they can. And the ways that they're doing these things they're not like sophisticated. They even said on some of the interviews, they're like, yeah, we kind of suck. We're not very good at hacking. And someone's like, how would you put your hacking skill? And he's like, about 3 out of 10. It's like, we're not very good. They're socially engineering these things. They're just calling up like Comcast and being like, hey, I forgot my login. Can you get it to me? They're calling up banks and they were able to call a bank and get like the last four of the bank account and credit card, stuff like that. They were able to socially engineer all this stuff. Teenagers. Anyway, they're under investigation now. The FBI is after them. So they've decided to dox the FBI. And now they've got, I forget who it is here, the FBI. John Brennan was the director of the CIA, and now the FBI is investigating them. So where is it at? They said so far they've gotten into the wife of one of the guys at the FBI. They've gotten into her account, and they're looking around. And yeah, how is this going to end? And they're obviously going to get in trouble and go to jail, but it does say a few things about the whole system. If a bunch of teenagers are able to socially engineer and get into the director of the CIA and one of the heads of the FBI. From social engineering, from calling and being like, hi, this is so-and-so, the king of the world. I've forgotten my password. Can you give it to me? Oh, yes, sir. That's an oversimplification, but come on.
The bad news is that the people that are in power did not grow up with and do not have experience with this type of technology, so they just don't have the mental framework to deal with it a lot of the time. And the reality is that this is going to create problems for sane management. This is why politicians are like, no, we need the ability to store all communications, your entire internet history. Every time you touch a computer for any person, we need to log that so we can look at it at any time, because we think we'll be able to find more of this. And honestly, the criminal element will just get more and more sophisticated to the point that like tracking that down and finding it is not going to be as easy as it is today. So it's not really going to do anything as far as the criminal element goes. But at the same time, it's like, it's a group of rowdy teenagers that, need to be, disciplined or whatever. But they're going to go to prison. They're going to go to federal prison for like 5 or 10 years when this crime is probably on the order of, vandalizing these guys' houses. And it's like, maybe threatening or something. I don't know. It's just, it seems like because the crimes involve a computer, it's going to be 10 times more severe than it would be ordinarily. And so that upsets me. But
you have the FBI saying that they're going to be made an example out of. So they're going to make an example out of these guys.
Yeah, that's not how the law is supposed to work. You're supposed to be equal before the law. So, but at the same time, these guys are not petitioning for a redress of grievances in the correct way, I think.
Yeah, these guys they just keep attacking. Back when we were young, were you involved in any of the prank calls we used to make? That's what we did. We instead of like trying to
confirm nor deny.
Remember that one we called Pikeville, and I called everybody. I got the phone book out, and I called everybody I could find that lived on this one street in Pikeville, and told them all that a panther had escaped, and it was last seen on their block, and to keep their kids home from school so they don't get mauled by the panther. And I called everyone at 4 a.m, and everyone was really tired. And what was weird is I was putting on my most charming sheriff accent. And that was really bad. I didn't get in trouble for it, but that was really bad. Stuff we used to do back then was really bad. But I'm not sure if we hurt anybody or not. Thinking back, did we hurt anybody? Because everyone was really thankful on the phone. They're like, well, gosh, thanks Thank you, sir. Thank you for calling. I was like, yeah, we don't want anyone to get eaten by a cougar, do we? That's the. Were you involved in that? I don't remember.
No, I don't think I was involved in that one. I did sort of desperately seek ways to get as many long distance minutes as I possibly could, because the only connection that I had to internet and Usenet was through the Kansas City BBS, which of course is a long distance phone call. So that was interesting.
Yeah, there wasn't really much to do back in the backwoods of Kentucky, so it was like, what do you guys want to do? I don't know. Let's go. We used to go buy master locks, and then like we would find people at a park playing games, and we would lock them in and then leave. And then once they got finished with their game, they'd be like, what? We're locked inside the basketball court forever? So yeah. It's just like it's nothing to do. It's just like we're going to be little asshats, but we've learned our lesson. Maybe. So if you guys ever see me, ask me some terrible stories about what I did to cure my boredom. While we were on this whole thing about the government looking at what these kids are doing and being like, listen, we need more control. We need to watch everything. Let's go over to the UK where exactly that is happening. And there's a lot of double talk going on. Lynn, I'll let you jump in here because you can probably summarize this quicker than I can.
So this is amazing. I'm really sorry for you guys that are in the UK. This is just so bad. I just don't. And so the situation is we've got Theresa May, who is basically saying we need a bill that lets us execute warrants. And it's like, all right, well, I mean, that seems reasonable. They need a bill to execute warrants. Don't they already have the law to execute warrants for doing searches and, you know, whatever data is available in terms of a search? But when you dig into it, it's like, well, we really need ISPs to maintain communications data. And it's like, well, what is communications data? And you dig into it, and then you realize that basically all data is communications data. And it's like, what? The ISPs have to maintain a record of all the data. It's like, well, it's all communications data. It's data that's passing through a communications medium, right? So that's all data. What?
Well, it's funny if you watch her give a speech or something. She's very careful to point out that, and she's sort of equivocating. that was not the right word, but she's making this the equivalent of what's the word? Tantamount. That's the word I'm looking for. She's saying that basically what they're doing is tantamount to looking at someone's phone records, because she's like, listen, we know that you go to Facebook, but we don't know who you're talking to on Facebook. Just like, you look at someone's phone records and you don't know who they're talking to. That's what she says. But that may not be the case fully, and it's still double talk.
It is totally doublespeak. This is completely out of 1984. And the reason for this is that I guess the public, like whenever they said we need to ban encryption or we need to ban Unbreakable encryption, the public sort of came out and said, oh, Lordy, that seems crazy, which is good. That's the good reaction. Maybe not on the level that I was hoping for, but there was at least some reaction there. And so now they're coming out and saying, it's like, well, no, we don't want to ban encryption. We just need the ability to go to companies to ask them to decrypt things. And again, doublespeak and highly manipulative, because when you get down to it, there are penalties if these companies cannot decrypt the information for them. And so it's like, well, the government doesn't have to be able to decrypt it, but they have to be able to compel somebody else to decrypt it for them. And that's tantamount to a decryption backdoor.
So you're saying they can show up at Bobby Apple's house with an Apple device and say, hey, Bob Apple, if you don't decrypt this right now, you're going to jail. They can throw them in jail for not decrypting.
Yeah, this is already played out in America, honestly, with Skype. Skype is the best example. Skype actually was a distributed peer-to-peer encrypted, can't decrypt it, there's not even middleman encryption. It's amazing. Microsoft bought it, and the powers that be went to Microsoft and said, hey, we really need to be able to decrypt this. We really need to be able to intercept communications. Microsoft completely re-engineered the Skype protocol in order to be able to do that, in order to be compliant with that. Apple is totally going to roll over and do that. You know how I know? Because they gave China the source code. If China can get the source code to the iPhone, it is a comparatively very small measure to make modifications. Like, oh, you're in the UK? Oh, okay, cool. We'll just use this key that's signed with our key so that we can decrypt your stuff if we've got to. I mean, Microsoft did it with France for a long time. Encryption was outlawed in France. And if you set your region on Windows NT to France, guess what? No more encryption. No more password encryption. No more encryption at any level in the operating system. These are things that have already happened. It's going to happen again. And there's a whole bunch of tweets from Snowden where he's pointing out the real insanity of stuff that's happening there. And so the UK government definitely seems dead set on having the Snoopers Charter in some form or another. And because it didn't pass or it wasn't popular in common language, they have now resorted to doublespeak. And across the pond looking at this, it's like, wow, you guys have problems almost as bad as we do. Sorry.
You know, all this nonsense has been pushing people like Kim.com. I mean, we were just talking about how this is going to make the people who are wanting to remain secure, and also the criminals, it's going to make them do more drastic things to remain secure. So we got Kim.com now who wants to start his own private internet. And that is not exactly what's happening. What he's doing is, God, I guess the easiest way to explain this is he's making something that's like, take Tor, take MeshNet, put it together, make it exist on current infrastructure. It's not like he's not laying new lines or anything like that. You're going to have to use your already there ISP, hence the relationship, like with the similarity to Tor. You're using what's already there, but you're going through their network. And each device that's on the network is going to have, you're going to donate a little bit of your bandwidth and a little bit of your storage capacity. And then it's all going to be using blockchain. So he's saying that it's going to be virtually, no one's going to be able to break this encryption. So that's what he says. Sounds like a very kind of interesting and a little bit weird way to do it. Use your current provider, use blockchain, make everyone kind of mesh together into basically a layer on top of your internet. They called it a dumb pipe. That's a weird way to say it. Shove it down your dumb pipe, dude. Shove it right down your dumb pipe. I'll say that a few more times. I don't know.
He's no mistake, always up to something. Kim.com does not have any altruistic intentions. He wants to dismantle the industry that shut his business down. He's out for a profit, but is he the champion of justice and freedom of data that we need? No, but is he the one that we deserve? Probably.
Yeah, when we hear about this stuff, they're taking all your data. This is us. This is a random citizen sitting in a coffee shop. Wish they wouldn't do that. That's it. That's the response. Oh yeah, that's bad. But I don't have a tinfoil hat on, and what are they going to care about my muffin recipe that I send to my mom? They don't care about that. So oh well, they shouldn't do it. But it's not going to affect me. I don't think. Is that you? Is this someone you know? Well, hit him in the head with a 2x4. Let's move on. Hey, it's about time to talk about some hardware-ish stuff. This new Lytro 3D, 360 3D Lightfield thing is really cool. That's the whole article. Let me pull down here and I'll hit play on the video. I'm not going to scroll too much. I've been trying. God, it's so hard not to scroll all over the page like a wild man. Well, it's not going to play. So the idea here is that the Lytro is a new way to do photography. It essentially, what's the equivalent technology for graphics cards where it's each individual ray of light, ray tracing. It's kind of like ray tracing. It's looking at the scene and being like, okay, here is where all the light is hitting, and here's where all the light is reflecting, and it's giving you all of that raw data so that later on you can, if you're doing a camera, you can set your focus point. Well, now they've taken that idea and they've gone full 360, and they've also, measured distance and everything else. So essentially what you can do with this new camera is put it into an environment and record accurate 3D information, and then you can bring that back and allow someone with VR gear to experience this environment. It could be a new way to experience movies. You put one of these in the set and then have stuff going on all over the place. It could be a new way for, to quickly create interactive environments that someone could put on a 3D headset, or a VR headset, and then all of a sudden be in the environment. There's a lot of potential for this device, and they also have current plugins and current pieces of software that will work with some of mostly the big Hollywood stuff like, Nuke they mentioned, and I don't know why the video won't play, but oh, there it is. Now it's playing. So yeah, I think that this is sort of the future of photography and cinematography, capturing the raw light information instead of just, having a piece of a celluloid or a sensor that captures what's filtered through a lens. That's, and then basically the lens is focusing on things and all that. It works like your eye, but this just captures. You need a ton of storage for all this kind of stuff. So they've also given, when you buy this thing, you get this big storage thing. I'm not sure if they're going to show it or not, but I don't know. I think that in the years to come, I think the photography industry in general is going to move more in this direction. It gives you so much more control, but there's a lot of question as to wow, that's a lot of data to store and data to process. As things get faster and as data becomes cheaper and we get faster, larger types of data, I think this is where we're going to be going.
I think the interesting thing with this cabinet is that it's all PCIe storage, which is insane.
It has to be.
I like that the video you put on the VR helmet, and as much as you can move your head around, you're not just your head is not just pivoting on a point like has been seen with existing 360-degree film capture technology. You're actually able to move your head around in 3D space, and you will see the video moving around in 3D space as well. This is some serious science and some serious technology behind that, because if you want immersive video, this is what you're going to need. But it's a completely different approach than like a video game where it is actually rendering the environment, and minor motions of your head translate into the corresponding motions within the video game. This is actually able to let you do that with captured footage from all the different angles and from basically inside the volume of your head. Now, like if you lean way over, then you would be too far away for the light field for the camera, but that it's capturing all the light field from all the different angles and all the different possible combinations will really make for some super immersive stuff, assuming that like the Oculus Rift and things like that really catch on.
Yeah, that's a big assumption too, especially for home use, because they're still bulky, they're still heavy, they're still expensive. But who knows? We'll see in the years to come if this is where a lot of things in the industry go. But I think maybe not in the near future, but in the far future, we'll move to more of this sort of technology. And I mean, I think they're going to need some kind of technology like this if they want to make, if they ever want to make like the holodeck. It won't be this exact technology. It'll be something that'll allow you to fully move through the environment. But I think this is more of, I don't know, who knows? Interactive movies, lots and lots and lots of potential and implications and all that sort of thing. So, what's next on the list here? Oh yeah, Comcast. We forgot to talk about Comcast and their data usage caps. Aren't we glad about this? So Comcast, they're rolling out their data caps into more and more markets. So now what you had for free is no longer free. So you used to have, just use the data as much as you want. Now, what's really interesting about this is a couple different things. First off, they're rolling this out in the Chattanooga area. And Chattanooga just upgraded their city to 10 gig if you want it. You don't have to have 10 gig. It's 1 gig. You can get 1 gigabit. But you can have 10 gig if you want it. And then Comcast, what are they doing? Do they even care anymore? It's like, do they even care about competing anymore? They're way slower. They're like 10 times slower, more expensive, and now they're putting a cap on top of things. So, okay, number one, do they even care? Number two, the other thing that's kind of weird is it even legal? I mean, how could it possibly be legal for them to do what they're doing? Because now another thing they're doing, they're giving you a data bandwidth cap, and you can opt to pay extra money to remove the cap. So they're putting a cap on it, and they're saying, listen, you now have a data bandwidth cap, but if you give us 30 or 35 bucks a month, you can just have unlimited use. So you already have that. They're taking it away and charging you extra for it and making it a feature. Is that like, are they allowed to do that? I mean, how can that be like legal? I don't understand. My head hurts. I don't know.
Yeah. A lot of industry analysts have looked at this and said that this is a money grab and nothing more. Here's what's really happening. Well, there's two things actually that we want to talk about. It's a different tact than we normally have. The first thing is that Comcast is rolling out scripts to deal with consumers that complain about this, and these scripts really spin it in the best possible light. And this is one of the reasons that people get irrationally angry when they have to call their ISP, is because you see this and you think it's BS, and it's upsetting because it's complete BS, and it's pure unadulterated greed. There's no legitimate reason for this, none whatsoever. And you call in, and they've got this script prepared for seemingly reasonable sounding things that really fall apart under scrutiny. And so they come back with these prepared, retorts for your complaints. And you just get angry because it's like, well, those words sound good and that kind of sounds plausible, but it really falls apart under scrutiny. And you really have a hard time articulating that to a barely literate, phone support worker. But they're following the script and they've basically been coached on that. So how crazy is it that you've got a multi-billion-dollar company that is basically coaching phone people to manipulate you according to a script to try to convince you that this really horrible idea is in fact actually good for you? The reason it's happening now is because of Christmas. At Christmas, there's going to be record sales of video playback devices like Comcast, like the Roku, all those devices. Netflix is going to, it's like, whatever Netflix is planning to roll out, it's like, oh, you can buy a Netflix subscription in Walmart, whatever they've got planned, or like you get a free month, get December and January completely free sign up as long as we get your name and email address and your physical address. Netflix will be crazy not to do that. They're going to completely take over the universe. They're going to take Christmas by storm this year. I'm going to predict it. And I really do think it's going to be record sales for all of the devices that do streaming, that kind of thing. Comcast knows this. Their marketing analyst people have looked at this and said, oh crap, this Christmas is the Christmas that everybody decides that between Amazon and Hulu and Netflix and all those kinds of services, we're not needed anymore. It's so crazy that that there are some TV networks that are actually rolling out, quote unquote, less ads. It's like, you complain and we listen. We at Time Warner are rolling out less ads, which only demonstrate how disconnected these cable companies really are. And so at Christmas, it's going to be really bad. And so the data caps have to roll out now so that in January, it's like, oh crap, it's really expensive. All that money that we lost on the cable TV side of things we'll make up on the data side of things because, hey, we've got caps now and you can only watch, a few days of high definition footage with your 300 gigabyte data cap. So, in 4K, you can forget 4K. That's just not even going to happen. So I think that's neat.
I have Comcast. I'm very unhappy right now. Hey, our lease is up in like a month. If that's another thing. I'm not moving somewhere with Comcast. It's just not happening. I mean, I took what I could get when I first came here because it was like the last day and we were getting ready to get on a plane, and I was like, we got to get something. I'm glad I did because it was very good for, making connections and making video games and whatnot. But yeah, it's really difficult around the Seattle area to find something that has decent internet. It's not like Vermont where you could just get good internet from a local ISP. There's a few places you can do it, but by and large, it's CenturyLink and Comcast, and it's rough, man. That's the way it is in a lot of places. They've just got it on lockdown. There's cue the South Park.
I'm more concerned that every level of corporation and every interaction that the public has with the government is concerned with psychological manipulation. How crazy is it that we've got the UK? It's like, well, we really need the Snoopers Charter, and we can't honestly directly say what it is. So we've got to make up all this new terminology that's reasonable sounding, but actually falls apart under scrutiny. It's basically the same thing with Comcast. How are we as a society at a point where pretty much all levels of it's like, as a member of society, how are my affairs being conducted in a sense that society is being bettered by the people that we've entrusted to power, be that corporations or the government. And basically everywhere you turn, you are being manipulated. That's enough to make you a crazy person.
I mean, is it possible to just ignore it and live in the middle of the woods or something? I guess you could, but I do crave interaction with other and culture and that sort of thing. And I feel like that's something they haven't squashed yet. We still have culture. We still have those. You can go out and hang out and like live music and talk about whatever and make food and go climb a mountain and hang out with each other and share information and share stuff. But is there a way to like be able to do all that stuff without having to deal with all the other nonsense? I don't think so.
There are some people that say Ted Kaczynski is the way that was the way that he was because of CIA experiments as part of the MK Ultra program. And if you haven't heard of MK Ultra, you should Google it and be ready to be disturbed. And just imagine what the GCHQ is doing in your own country.
Wasn't that the Mortal Kombat that was on Nintendo 64?
That's what they want you to believe.
That's what I was told. I was told that that was the version that had the Noob Sabat the first time. And
Man, we got so much news this episode. It's crazy because we also got to talk about AMD confirmed today their new architecture stuff. I think I forgot to send you this article.
oh, the Zen thing. We'll bring that up.
They confirmed Zen, and we get the EM drive thing as well.
So I'll quickly mention the Ubuntu Software Center is going to be replaced. That's by the GNOME. It's not that big a deal. I think everyone watching uses the uses the terminal, whatever, but uses apt-get or uses something like that to install all their stuff. What do you guys use? Most people use apt-get on Ubuntu, or do they use what do you use, Wendell?
I do apt-get from. Oh, actually, I use aptitude, which is a command line curses thing that's awesome.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Aptitude. Yeah. All right, moving right along then. NVIDIA, the new driver, well, it doesn't look like it's out just yet, but there's going to be Vulkan support, Pascal and Volta, but Vulkan support. There you go. Vulkan's not even like fully available yet, but that's pretty cool to see the support in the driver. And, okay, the NASA thing's next. First off, let me grab the AMD thing real quick.
This is on par with Skylake, or not Skylake, Haswell, IPC efficiency and that kind of thing. But it's true 8 cores. 8 real cores this time, not 8 pretend cores.
Not 8 little cores that shared a bunch of cache in a very strange way to make them, I don't know. Interesting. So, Zen. When's this supposed to come out? In 2016?
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
2016 is going to be a big year for computer hardware.
Some competition would be nice. That'd be really nice. Maybe Intel will start giving us a desktop 8-core instead of, well, I mean, yeah, the Haswell E is a kind of a desktop 8-core, but I'm talking like they could do it. They could do it. All right, especially cheaper. All right, well the NASA thing. Let's talk about that for a minute. Where did I put that article on NASA? There it is. So NASA's EM drive. EM drive is
just a quick mention because there's not a full report yet. Right. But every time somebody farts M drive, we're going to let you know because it's exciting. It's a propellantless propulsion system. It's being tested by NASA. They don't have an official report, but there was kind of this sort of like, I don't know, bathroom interview with one of the guys working on it, and he sort of confirmed that, hey, they built their own, and hey, it's an order of magnitude more. The variables for the system, thermal expansion, that kind of thing, have been accounted for to an order of magnitude greater than in previous experiments. They're still trying to account for one more variable, so there's not an official thing yet, but they still have anomalous thrust readings from the setup, which is really exciting. I'm watching this with bated breath. It is really, really exciting that microwave radiation in a sealed metal, sealed conical metal, whatever, is producing thrust without expelling ions or any kind of like physical matter propellant. And so there's a tiny blip of an article here that soon there will be an actual report on this. This is not the actual report, but the M drive could pave the way for interstellar travel because it produces thrust but doesn't actually expel any kind of propellant. So it's not like an ion drive, it's not like a rocket. It's not, we don't understand the physics of this engine at all, which is exciting.
Doesn't it like absorb magnetism and expel microwaves or something like that? Something crazy? And also,
we got no idea.
Also, the speed. We can reach the moon in a matter of hours. We could go to Mars in a matter of a few days, and Pluto in a matter of like 6-7 months, something like that. Maybe it's 8 months. I forget what it was. Yeah, potentially with this. That's crazy. That's freaking ridiculous. Still takes 12 hours to get to China. Everything is so far away. Why is it so far away? All right.
Because we don't have the supersonic jet anymore, and 600 miles an hour is all you get. So
still using jets from the 50s and 60s or before. This is another quick mention. NASA have solved the mystery of what's happened to Mars, the missing atmosphere. It was solar wind. There was a few different things, but they're pretty sure now it was solar wind that got rid of the atmosphere. So I guess they'll have to figure that out if they're ever wanting to terraform Mars. The solar wind, it impacts our atmosphere, but it really impacts the atmosphere of Mars. There's not enough of a gravitational pull on Mars. Mars is smaller and that sort of thing. So I better figure that out, guys. I don't know. All right, you ready to talk about some gene editing? Some interesting stuff came out.
This was really exciting.
Yeah, this is like some Deus Ex stuff right here. So the CRISPR gene we've talked about before. It's not the gene; it's the gene editing thing. It's essentially a program. If you're editing code, it's a program that allows you to open up DNA as if it were a file and then edit it and then save it. So that's a very, very basic way to help you guys understand it. But because I don't understand it, I don't know much about biology. I'm just some dude on the internet, man. But I'm excited about it. So they are planning on trying this out with some humans. First off, it'll be humans who have certain problems that are genetic that can be corrected. Like there's some certain type of blindness that can be corrected possibly through this. And then they'll be able to work on several other diseases that are, problems with genetics. They'll be able to go in and edit things and cure diseases that right now have no cure. So that's just the tip of the iceberg for what they're going to be able to do. But the biggest hurdles, I would imagine, are going to be the moral hurdles with this sort of thing. Like, okay, now we're editing the genes of humans. That's going to be the big hurdle, I think, for all this stuff. So, yeah. It's always been this.
It's really exciting that they'll be able to correct sort of genetic problems. There's all kinds of stuff. There's all kinds of stuff where having a quote-unquote defective gene actually is good for you, but having 2 copies of a defective gene is very bad for you. So like cystic fibrosis comes about if you have 2 copies of a certain gene. But if you only have 1 copy of it, you get resistance to malaria and typhoid fever and a whole bunch of other things. And so it's like, ooh, better not get too crazy with the gene editing. And then if you get really crazy, we're going to have super mutants and all that crap. So stay tuned for that happening November 10th. So...
there's another company out there called Twist Bioscience, and they're making synthetic DNA. Now, the whole idea of all this being able to like take synthetic DNA and insert it into currently living organisms like bacteria, viruses, and that sort of thing, and then or yeast or whatever, and then coaxing them into doing something totally new, or basically reprogramming them to do something totally new. That's been around for years and years and years. But the problem has been obtaining the synthetic DNA. Well, Twist Bioscience has figured out a way to make a bunch of it, and right now they're selling 100 million base pairs of their synthetic DNA to Ginkgo Bioworks, and they're going to start doing strange things. A lot of this is going to be testing. They have to do lots and lots of trial and error testing, that sort of thing. But they'll be able to feed or modify yeast, and then have the yeast eat, and then the yeast are going to make nylon. Okay, interesting. Different ways to get stuff. So the implications for this are also pretty huge. Once we start messing with this kind of stuff, playing nature, playing God, I feel like it needs to be like a movie line. I'm playing God.
You guys see the episode of Futurama where they go to the Slurm home planet where all the Slurm comes from, and it comes from a giant worm? If Coke could do that, if Coke could grow some sort of, bacteria or creature that just poops out Coke, you can damn well better believe they're going to do it.
The corn lobby will never stand for that.
Well, it's got to eat corn. It's genetically engineered so that it only runs on Monsanto corn. It's this, huge beast that's like, kill me now, I'm sentient. No, but it's just generating lots and lots of Coke, but it can only eat Monsanto corn, otherwise it gets sick.
That's the only way it can be monsatiated. Let's talk about this Unbreakable glass really quick. This is also pretty cool. So some dudes in the University of Tokyo, at the University of Tokyo, Masuno? Is that how you say his last name? So at Tsunobu Masuno. I don't know. Anyways, that's people like when I give credit, so I always try to mention who we're talking about here, especially for the people who are watching the podcast. God, I'm awful. Anyway, they figured out how to make glass that's almost as strong as steel, and they're mixing into it some aluminum stuff, like a silicon dioxide, very similar to aluminum. And before, they always had problems doing this because whenever it touched the container, it would become brittle or shatter or whatever. That's probably the wrong way to say it. But anyway, they figured out a new process, and they were able to make it. And now they're trying to figure out how to mass produce it. And they say, yeah, maybe 4 or 5 years they'll be able to mass produce this. That could be cool. Like glass that's almost as strong as steel. Think we'll have a glass car? That'd be weird. Would you buy a glass
Transparent
car?
aluminum's what I'm waiting for.
This is pretty close, actually. I mean, this is pretty damn close to transparent aluminum. I wonder if Scotty invented this. You can use it to transport a whale in your
your stolen Klingon battle cruiser. Yeah,
yeah. That I can see the first advertisement. Use this to transport your whale and your stolen bird of prey. Was it a bird of prey?
Yeah. Was it a bird of prey?
I think it might have been.
I think it was.
Yeah, I think so. This is getting too nerdy. I don't know. Yeah, this is kind of cool. And now it's time to talk about some video games here. Going to PDX land, I'll probably be playing a little bit of Quake, but this is just a fun video that someone put online, showing way back when and now with the Quake. They've got it running in the Source Engine. I don't think the Source Engine looks as good as I've seen some mods of the actual Quake game where they added a ton of stuff to the engine, and it wasn't the Source Engine, but you can run Quake in like 4K. I think that looked better than this, but that's cool. You guys can grab this if you want to. Details in the description. You guys want to grab Quake. Quake's awesome, by the way.
You can let us know the best implementation of Quake that you've seen in the comments for the video at techsyndicate.com.
I'm smacking buttons on the keyboard. I can't see it. No, not 4. Let's do 33. No, 32. 31. There, I can't see over the microphone. I got to put my birthday in for this Fallout thing.
Yeah, we're saving the Fallout news until Fallout actually comes out because who knows? It might be a turd fest. We don't know.
All right, so there's apparently been a bit of fallout on the internet. Everyone is going crazy over the graphics, talking about how much they suck in the latest Fallout game. So Bethesda felt compelled enough to write a little blog article. It's ridiculous. It's like all you see on like gaming forums and that sort of thing. People talking about the Fallout graphics, blah blah blah. So yeah, they released the prettiest pictures that they could possibly take, mostly just showing the lighting systems, and they've listed here all the different things here. So you guys can take this list and compare it against the list of stuff that NVIDIA GameWorks is doing, and you can find out exactly what technologies from NVIDIA GameWorks from the software suite that they're using here. And you see the fog, that's part of it. The hardware tessellation is part of it. That's really impacts AMD performance, typically the tessellation. So I would keep that turned down to a minimum. They tend to crank it up to like 64x because that doesn't hurt the NVIDIA cards that much. It doesn't make hardly any difference as far as quality goes between like 48x and 64x, but it destroys AMD performance. So be sure to keep the tessellation low. It's not going to look that much different, or just turn it off if you're running AMD. Bokeh depth of field is the most expensive depth of field. Both graphic cards can pretty well do it, but it does impact performance substantially. Circular depth of field is an easier way to do it, and it's also less impactful on performance, but it doesn't look quite as good as the Bokeh depth of field. You got the temporal anti-aliasing. What else do we have in there? Screen space ambient occlusion. So there's that in there.
I'm withholding anything until I actually lay my hands on it.
Yeah, and I'm probably not even going to get it on day one. I didn't pre-order. I didn't get the Pip-Boy. I wanted the Pip-Boy,
I did not
but I didn't
pre-order either.
I think Kane, he really wanted the Pip-Boy. But
I'm waiting for the deals on deal. I want it. It's like it's $40 launch day. Come on, where's it at?
Almost forgot, guys. We haven't mentioned deals on a long time. I want to say thanks to those guys. They've really helped us out. Every once in a while, you'll see a post on here that says like, "Hey, there's some deals here," and yeah, it's I work with them a lot. In the
they find and post crap that's on sale. I mean, that's the long and short of it.
And it supports us with a few pennies every time you guys buy something. So if there's something on there you want for sale, there it is. I'm at PDX land right this minute, so I'll be here with who else here? There's a lot of people here. I don't know. I know Ed from Sapphire is here. I know Josh from Fractal is here. Well, I'm saying this because I know you guys are watching this and it's the future. Let me know. Jump on the website. Let me know if you guys want me to ask them anything or whatever, and I'll see if I can hang out with them and say things. Barnacles is going. I'm going to be riding down there with Timmy Tech, so you guys say hi to Timmy Tech TV, and I'll translate the messages for him. I'll give him the message. If you guys have anything you want to say to him, put it in the comments. Maybe he can read it. I don't know. So yeah, thank you guys for being awesome. Thanks for the Patreon support. And Wendell, you got anything else to say as a final salutation?
Thank you guys. We really appreciate it.